Escape from Tarkov. It has a low player count with a majority of people playing the PvE game modes exclusively. Ever since we got the terrible cheating incident, followed by the price hikes and the pay-to-win model, Tarkov now lies as a formal shadow of itself. It is still the forefront of the looter-shooter extraction genre, don't get me wrong, but it feels somehow different. Dark and Darker 2, a fantasy version of Tarkov with sword clashing and magic casting. It too has lost 90% of its player base, with the remaining also playing PvE only modes. I have a video diving into the insane developer that is solely responsible for this game's sharp and drastic decline from what was an incredibly thriving community. Again, go check out the video on SDF and how he messed with this game. And the Cycle Frontier, another looter shooter but set in an alien planet. I actually enjoyed the Cycle a lot with its variety of enemies, cool map design, and even the stash upgrade system, no doubt inspired by Tarkov. But it's sad to see that the game died and shut down due to a variety of elements ranging from rampant cheaters to a declining player count, and ultimately, it just became a financial burden for the company running it. So why are looter shooters dead? Sorry. Why are looter shooters not that popular anymore? Bungie's Marathon. I'm sure many of you have heard news stories or YouTube videos about the situation of this game, but if not, here's a quick 30-second recap. Back in mid-2023, Bungie revealed Marathon as their next big looter extraction game. The trailers looked really promising, slick visuals, a colorful art style, and a fresh world to explore. It felt like the genre might finally be getting a AAA studio treatment. But then the drama soon hit. A Scottish artist named Anti-Real noticed that some of the logos and iconography in the trailer looked a little too familiar. She then put out a side-by-side comparison of her 2017 poster designs next to Bungie's assets, and yeah, they were basically identical. Bungie tried to apologize, but the damage was already done. Fast forward a few months, and after all the negative press, declining internal morale, and Bungie already dealing with layoffs, Marathon was officially cancelled in early 2025, before it even got a chance to launch. Alright, so going back to the main point of this video, why are looter extractions feeling like they are dying a slow, painful death? I'd like to start back in time in 2017. Tarkov just began its closed beta on the 28th of July, and I somehow convinced myself to buy the Edge of Darkness edition because it had the free DLC pass. Remember that detail for later. Anyways, I remember Tarkov being very scary for me in the learning stages. If you've never played Tarkov, let me just tell you, getting head eyes is something you don't get used to. I was never good at Tarkov. I'm still not good at Tarkov. I don't think I've ever escaped from labs the last time I was playing, and when Streets recently came out, my computer couldn't even run the map, so I never played Streets. But back on topic. Escape from Tarkov was an amazingly realistic looter extraction game that practically owned the genre, as no other games were really similar to it at the time. Their advanced healing system, otherwise known as their hazardous environment combat simulator, was one of a kind. Heavy bleeds, light bleeds, dehydration, starvation. To those of us who learned Tarkov, we also learned how to do basic field surgery to repair blacked out limbs. The guns of Tarkov were also extremely realistic, being able to customize to a precision not seen anywhere else. And not to mention, if you truly had a good understanding of guns, you could make changes during raids, stripping enemies of their attachments and adding it onto your own. Tarkov had a lot to offer all of us just picking it up for the first time. And granted, if you've never played it, it still has a lot to give. But why does it feel so quiet? Doing a little bit of research online and also trying to play a couple of games, Tarkov honestly feels fine. But do let me know what you guys think of the game. Are you having fun? Are you finding other players? Browsing Reddit and YouTube, I'm hearing some mixed information on either how the game is dying or how the player base is holding relatively strong. But do let me know what you guys think. Going back a little more, I'd like to talk about the reason why a lot of people left Tarkov and distrusted Nikita in the first place. So remember how in 2017 I bought the Edge of Darkness edition of Tarkov for around $120? Well, I bought that because it allowed for free DLC access forever. That's what it plainly says on the packaging. But in April of 2024, the unheard of edition of Tarkov came out, priced at $250, essentially a pay-to-win bundle. It allows for PvE mode only for purchasers, which was not stated earlier, and they say that Edge of Darkness players get PvE for only 6 months for free. Many people, including myself, were outraged by this unheard edition that released. If you're unfamiliar with what happened next, the TLDR is Battlestate Games, the company that owns Tarkov, essentially tried to do some word gymnastics stating that PvE content is not DLC. But that obviously did not go well, as by the time Battlestate Games apologized and got things sorted, a majority of players already moved on. So obviously, this looks like a huge scam by the developers just to take money from the player base, and a lot of people straight up dropped the game, including myself. You need to remember that at this time, other games like Helldivers 2 and Arena Breakout were there to play, so it's kind of a no-brainer that a lot of people just straight up jumped ship when their trust got broken like this. That wasn't the only reason why a lot of people chose to quit Tarkov for good. It's no question that in January of 2024, cheating in Tarkov was out of this world. Even the godfather of Tarkov, Pestily, had made a video himself to address the current status of Tarkov at the time. But again, Tarkov today feels fine gameplay-wise, it's just empty. So we've talked about a few reasons on why people have left the game, but now I'd like to talk about a few reasons on why people don't come back to games like Tarkov. Playing a game that wipes every so often is both good and bad. It's great for experienced players to basically restart the game with either new goals or a new way of playing the game. But for the new, or players with those with less time on their hands to play games, a wipe usually means playing Tarkov at a disadvantage. If you can't dedicate hours and hours every week to grind, upgrade your stash, and also learn every map, every angle, and every spawn, you're not really playing the same game as the veterans. You're just basically a moving target for them. Now combine that with the wipes. Imagine you're a casual player who managed to learn customs, you got a decent stash, maybe a few metaguns, then boom, wipe hits, all that time gone, and you're back to running around with a pistol and a dream. For hardcore fans, this is exciting, but for most people, this is really exhausting or annoying. Another issue is accessibility. Looter extraction games are notoriously unfriendly to new players. You just don't pick up and play these games. You need guides, spreadsheets, and hours of YouTube tutorials just to understand some basic mechanics. Tarkov literally has an ammo chart wiki that you need to open on your second monitor if you want to know which bullets even work. And that's not fun for most people. So when you add all this up, wipes, exhaustion, a steep ass learning curve, as well as these pay to win bundles they just added, not to mention cheaters, it paints a clear picture. The genre isn't dead, but it's definitely bleeding players because the average gamer doesn't want to feel like they're clocking into a second job just to have fun. Dark and Darker follows a similar but more destructive path, but Dark and Darker was honestly one of the most fun and fresh spins on the extraction genre that I had in a while. Instead of guns and ammo, you had fireballs, swords, and axes. It was like someone dropped Tarkov into a Dungeons & Dragons dungeon crawl. The vibe was there, the community was strong, and for a while, it felt like it was going to be the next big breakout hit. But then, the problems started. And most of them came down to developer. I had made an entire video breaking down the insane decisions made by SDF, the guy basically running the whole project, and how his choices single-handedly nuked the game's momentum. From weird monetization experiments to a lack of transparency and also straight up ignoring the community, the trust that kept players coming back to this game started to crumble at the seams. And just like Tarkov, Dark and Darker had the same accessibility issues. It was brutal for new players. If you weren't willing to die over and over again to geared squads, you probably weren't going to stick around. And when you look at the numbers today, 90% of that massive launch player base is gone, with a few remaining mostly just grinding the PvE only modes, similar to Tarkov. This is honestly a sad fate for what could have been a real genre-defining game. Now, the Psycho Frontier. Man, this one hurts a little. Out of all the looter shooters outside of Tarkov, this one I genuinely thought had a good shot. The setting on Fortuna 3 was awesome, alien monsters, hostile weather, and a map that felt alive and dangerous even without other players. It had a stash system upgrade, clearly inspired by Tarkov, and it gave you a sense of clear progression, with the variety of enemies to keep things interesting. But the problems stacked up fast. Rampant cheating. Nothing kills an extraction game faster than feeling like every death might have been to a hacker. Then came the declining player count, and once the population dips below a certain point, lobbies just felt completely empty, and the tension that makes the game fun starts to disappear. On top of all that, the game just wasn't financially sustainable for Jaeger, the parent company, and with fewer and fewer players logging in, the servers became a burden instead of a business. Eventually, the Psycho Frontier shut down completely, and that's really telling, because it wasn't a bad game. In fact, a lot of people liked it, it just couldn't survive in this space where cheaters, burnout, and player retention are just a constant battle. So let's take a step back and look at the big three: Tarkov, Dark and Darker, and the Psycho Frontier. Tarkov is still around, but it's weighed down by pay-to-win bundles, endless wipes, and a cheating epidemic that scared off a ton of players. It's alive, sure, but it feels hollow compared to what it used to be. Dark and Darker had the fantasy twist everyone wanted, but the developer tanked their own game with bad decisions, and now most of its population hides in PvE instead of risking PvP, just like Tarkov. The Psycho Frontier had huge potential with its alien planet setting, but between cheaters and money issues, it just declined and straight up shut down. 3 different games with 3 different stories, but they all point to the same conclusion. Looter extraction games are struggling to keep players invested long term. Whether it's developer trust issues, cheating, burnout, or financial stability, the genre keeps running into the same brick walls. And that's why the question isn't just, is Tarkov dying, or what happened to the cycle? The real question is, can looter extractions actually survive as a genre, or are they doomed to just repeat the same cycle over and over again? My final answer? Honestly, I don't know. With Bungie's Marathon basically dead before it ever got a chance to prove itself, and with so many other extraction games either declining or straight up shutting down, it really feels like the genre is in limbo right now. But here's the thing, I don't think the idea of looter extraction games is dead yet. The core concept is still fun, and the real question is who's going to crack the formula in a way that keeps the average player around for the long haul. Personally, I've got my eyes on Arc Raiders. Everything we've seen so far with the playtest looks like it might just scratch that extraction itch we've all been missing. A fresh new world, a new style, and hopefully a way to avoid some of the mistakes Tarkov, Dark and Darker, and the cycle made. I can't wait for Arc Raiders to drop. I'm sure a lot of you are feeling the same way. But hey, maybe you don't. Maybe you think Tarkov is still the king. Maybe Dark and Darker just needs time, or maybe you've sworn off the genre entirely. Either way, let me know what you think down in the comments. And as always, my name is Kevin, and I like to talk about things that I find interesting. Stay safe in those raids.